We've been looking for a breakthrough, trying our best to make do.
Welcome to the Indie Friend Music Business Podcast. My name's Robbie,
Hey, I'm Jeremy.
and today we're talking about how to be successful as an indie artist.
Because we're really going to do that. We're going to, no, come on, man. It's like we're going to open that box of talking about what is real success. Because, honestly, if we define success or somebody else defines success for you, and you go after that, you may get to the point where you realize you had your ladder up against the wrong tree.
Right. Yeah, I think
what I mean?
I think it's important to identify, we've been doing this for a long time.
Yeah.
If you heard our first episode, but if you haven't, I've been in the industry for 10 years. Jeremy has also been in the industry for 10 plus 15 years. And we've both seen a lot. We've both experienced a lot as me as a professional writer, as a singer, you as an artist with a label, me working for a label and a publishing company. So we've got a lot of perspective from both sides of the aisle, right? The creative side and the business administrative side.
Yep.
And what we've learned in our journey with the Indie Friend is that a lot of artists actually have different definitions for what success even is for themselves.
Right. Exactly. And so part of the reason that we're talking about this right now is that what we want to see are artists thrive.
Right.
Like really.
Right.
And what does that mean? It means like what does it really mean for you as an independent artist to really allow what's really deep inside of you to come to fruition?
Right.
It's like our creative side is like when you first write a song, like you think that is the best song that you've ever written.
Right.
It's like so good. Or then you go through the whole process of refining it and then recording it. And now it's like your thing that you're putting into the world. And that feels so stinking good that like you can run through walls almost like this is the best. But if you define success by then how many people listen to that song,
right.
Ooh, like what happens when it doesn't quite measure up to what you thought it should measure up to? Or then let's go even further to the whole money thing. Maybe it's like, I just want to make money doing music. And then, well, how much?
Right. Well, I think you're bringing up an important piece of all of this is typically what we hear a lot of artists say is, I would like to be able to live off of my music.
Absolutely.
I would like to be able to make
Said
a
it
living
myself. Right.
as a creative. And you're even taught, right? Like a lot of success is measured by, are you doing something you love? Are you doing what you want to do? And can that make you money? Right. In the world we're taught, right? Like if you can do something you love and it can pay for your life, that you're kind of in that sweet spot. Right. So is that what success is for you as an independent artist? Or is it I'm going to be on arena tours and everyone's going to know my name, and even that there's a big question there. Why is that what your goal is? If that's your goal, right? So I think it's important to define what you think success is, but even if you feel, I think there's not one artist out there that I've met that's like, I want to be an inauthentic songwriting artist, right? Like
no,
everyone
I don't
thinks
know if I've ever heard
they're
that.
taking on this journey of expressing themselves in a way that changes something or changes someone when they come into contact with that creative work, right? But when the goal is, for instance, I want to be able to live off of my music, it gets a little dicey.
It really does.
Right?
Yeah. And so like when I do coaching with somebody, and when we, as the indie friend, when we start into a coaching process with somebody, that's like the foundation of everything else.
Right.
The big why underneath why write and record music. Like what's really underneath that? And in coaching, you may have this idea that coaching is, a mentor telling you what to do and go do this next, but that's not really what coaching is. Coaching is a process where We ask questions to get down underneath into motivation.
Right.
The whys
Right.
behind
Right.
what you want to do. So we can start to build that foundation on, hey, so we're going to build off of this to go the right way so that you can get to a place where, hey, even if I don't reach the top pinnacle of where I want to be in the future, I feel really good about what I'm doing.
Right.
And I'll keep doing what
Right.
I'm doing.
Yeah. Yeah. I think to your point, and the reason why Jeremy is bringing up coaching specifically is because what we've recognized is a lot of times it takes someone outside of yourself
Right.
that
Totally.
that can help bring perspective
Mhm.
and also ask you the clarifying questions you may not even know how to ask yourself,
Right.
right? That dives into why. Why are you doing this, right? Why are you pouring blood, sweat, and tears into this creative project or this creative endeavor,
Yeah.
emptying your life savings, emptying your 401k, or if you even have that,
Right.
right? Like, or bumming off of friends that are willing to help you
Mhm.
out for burritos and
Right.
like coffees, because we all know on an independent artist journey you may not have the funding that you want.
That's right.
But it really does delve into this like success. You can't answer the question of what is success if you can't answer why you're doing this.
That's exactly right.
Right. And I think it's super important to first be able to acknowledge that. And if you can't immediately answer that question, it's not that there's a problem. It just means you haven't done the work yet.
You haven't done the heart work.
Right.
The internal work.
If you can't answer that question, it
exactly
will show up
Mhm.
in your art.
Absolutely.
will.
I'll give a quick for instance with that. When I first started writing, recording music and getting things out, things were happening, making connections with people, coming in and out of Nashville, and then had the opportunity to go on to a label, and then we're working on an album. I'm getting paid, like I have, like, finances are good. I'm reaching where I wanted to be, where I thought I wanted to be, which was on a label and have money coming in. And so I all of a sudden, when I got to that point, I started to feel like, oh man, I've reached it. Like, I'm there. But there was now, what's next?
Right.
What does this mean? Did I shoot too low just to be on a label to do a label album, or was it what is next? So do I just go for more money? Do I just go for more notoriety? Do I just go for, you know what I mean? Get on a better label? So like the success it wasn't as fulfilling as I thought it would be, because underneath all of that, the reason I really started writing is because it was a true expression of where I was in life. And that's what really got me on the label in the first place, is because they heard the authenticity of what I was writing. So rather than making the goal, I'm going to keep doing that and keep going after that and even get better at my writing style and my playing, I've made it. This is great. And I almost went on cruise control for a while.
Or maintenance.
Right?
There's this maintenance of, I have to keep this thing going.
Yeah.
I got this far. How did I get here? We tend to forget the authenticity piece when you reach a certain level.
Totally.
Because what happens is, as you start to make money
Mhm.
off of your creative endeavors,
Yeah.
you were with a label.
Yeah.
So a lot of that work was done for you.
Oh, totally.
Right?
All the business stuff was
all
done
of the
for me.
business side of things was done for you. But when you're independent, there is such a depth of knowledge and really hard work
Right.
that goes into being able to manage
Mhm.
the business of music.
That's exactly right.
And a lot of artists don't understand that,
Mhm.
right? Or they're willing to let go of a lot of the income, right?
Yeah.
So, I do a lot of consulting
Yeah.
with artists and different organizations putting out music, and a lot of them will say, we definitely want to be authentic. We don't want money to be our why,
Right.
right? So in and of itself, I do want to make clear, I don't think there's anything wrong with money being a part of the picture.
Absolutely. And it kind of
And
has to be.
it kind of has to be if you're trying to make a living. However,
Mhm.
what tends to happen is if money is part of your why, if it's part of your goal,
Mhm.
then many times it's almost impossible for that to not affect your authenticity.
So that's what happened to me. So now we're in the
Right.
studio. Now we're writing towards something, and the questions start coming up. Well, what is it going to sound like? And so I started thinking, well, what's hot? And the producer's like, well, we need to go after what's hot right now. So we started to go down that rabbit trail, and slowly but surely, the album's turning out different than what I would have done it if I had just gone towards authenticity. We're looking at like Mute Math, like that was really,
Right.
really hot. And so we started to do, well, what would they do? What would it sound like? And so mixing all the other sounds that were really hot at the time to make my sound, which, I mean, we were just going after audience. If I'm being really, truly honest, like, I mean, I don't know, maybe you've been in that spot where you start to write something or record something, specifically recording, and you go after a sound because that's the kind of the hot sound right now. And you lose some authenticity because you're doing what? Going after the numbers, going after what
Right.
people will like rather than being truly authentic to yourself.
Right. Instead of saying, what is in my heart to communicate right now,
Exactly.
you're saying, what do the people want?
And so what happens with that is that's just a slippery slope. You're
Right.
just quickly going towards that, and it's hard to pull back because you lose the bearings of what is really in my heart, because what you really want is it to be popular and people
Well,
to like it.
I think you can lose yourself
That's what I'm saying.
in that process,
Totally.
right?
Yep.
Like it becomes what your entire creative process becomes about what someone else thinks,
Right.
right? Instead
It's
of
totally it, man.
what's in my heart.
Mhm.
Now, somebody that I think, I can't speak to their personal authenticity,
Sure.
but somebody that I think does a great job of towing this line is Ryan Tedder.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
totally.
So Ryan, I've watched a lot of interviews, I've studied a lot of his songwriting, right? But one thing he does really well is he actually looks for what is affecting culture.
Yeah.
Right? But his process is then, how do I feel about that?
Mm.
What can I do about it?
Right.
And how can I influence that thing
Right.
with an authentic response from my own heart?
Right.
Right. So I'm sure he's a business guy. I'm sure he looks at the numbers.
Totally.
I'm sure he does
Yep.
all of that, right? But he's in a different place than an independent artist,
Right.
right? So his mindset and his choices are deeply affected by the fact that he runs a label and owns these companies and does all this stuff.
Totally.
But with that, I think that there's something to be said for, it's okay to go listen to Mute Math or go listen to these things if what you're doing is looking for inspiration, something that moves you,
Right.
so that you can then say, what about that is touching me?
Right.
What about that affects me
Mhm.
in a positive way? And what am I going to do about it?
Right.
What is my art, my artistic response to that?
That's so
And
good.
that's so different than, what do the people want? What is the market saying? What's streamable? What's marketable, right?
Mhm.
How do I stay authentic even if I am looking outside of myself for inspiration, which I think is okay.
Right.
The act is the same. The motivation is 100% different.
And that's the part that
Right.
we get to in coaching. We drill down into what's the really motivating factor here. And so it's not just really obvious at the onset. And you may think it might be, well, I think it's X, Y, and Z. But when I ask the why question there, so let's say, like, Robbie, you've been doing music for a while. Where are you at? Can we just do a quick little
Are we coaching now?
little bit?
Okay,
Can we just
okay.
a little bit? And
I'll be your guinea pig.
Okay, awesome. So we're friends. We kind of know each other, but Robbie is now in this place where eventually he wants to begin to release music. He's releasing music with other people.
Things are starting to happen.
Things are starting to
Right.
happen, But what's your heart, Robbie? What would you like to see in the next year with your music?
Yeah, I think we all think that our heart is unique or
Right.
individual or not like anybody else's,
Mhm.
right? I think that's part of the like authentic artist journey is like I'm special, you know?
Right.
Like
But you are. Like
Um,
you are special. Let me say. You are
um,
special, Benny.
Thank you. But I think that in that process, I don't typically think of what I want as the normal thing that an artist wants.
Yeah.
I typically find myself saying something like, "I want to be part of something bigger than myself."
Cool.
Um, I don't fully know what that looks like yet.
Mm-hmm.
I've been very excited to jump in on friends' projects, right? A lot of people this year, I will have 4 or 5 features.
Yeah.
Before this year, I've maybe released 1 or 2 songs,
Mhm.
because I've always thought of myself more as a songwriter than an artist, even though I would
Totally.
say
Can
my
see
main
that.
talent is singing,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that goes into because I sat on the label side of things for so long, I see what it takes to be an artist,
Yeah.
and I've had to count the cost of, do I really want this?
Ooh, you said a big word there.
It's
And that's what I'm listening for. I'm listening for like flags of like big things. And
yeah.
let me just pull back the curtain. I'll be doing this while we're talking.
This is what a coach does.
Yeah. He said, I had to count the cost about what it means to be an artist.
Right.
So as he continues to talk, I'm going, ooh, now I'm curious. So what does that mean for him?
Yeah.
What is that? So does that mean he doesn't want to be an artist that's out there, pushing his artistry and putting his name on everything? So
Yeah.
I would probably ask a question towards that. I'm really curious, like, oh man, what does that mean for you? So
Yeah.
so continue that. You counted the cost. So what does that mean?
I think I had to kind of have some dividing lines of like what I'm okay with, what I'm not okay with.
Totally.
Right? So when you become someone that is known, there's a lot of benefits to that.
Mm.
But there's also a lot of cons to that nobody is willing to look at. They're like, they want to jump in because they see the shiny carrot dangling in front of them,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, whatever the cost.
Right.
They don't
Sure.
want to count it.
Mhm.
They're like, yeah, we'll deal with that when we get there. But the truth is, many times people jump into that life, and it destroys them. Their character is not built up. It's not ready for a platform. They're given a platform way before they're ready, and they have this scarcity mentality. And so
Mhm.
then they start rolling over people
Yeah.
because they have to protect what they've achieved.
Right.
Right. As an artist, people start wanting stuff from you.
Right.
Right. And then you typically feel that draw from people around you, and you start building walls around yourself to protect yourself from everybody that wants something from you. But the problem with that is the whole point of creativity and artistry is to affect people.
Yeah. So
But
how do
how-
you want your music to
Great-
affect people?
Great question. So, I have this deep conviction that I don't want just impact.
Mm.
I want influence.
Wow.
And I recently heard, I forget who said it, but I was listening to a podcast or something, and someone, I really wish I remembered who it was, but they said the difference between impact and influence is impact is a one-time event, and it has limited reach.
Sure.
But influence continues, and it goes on, and it goes on,
Wow.
and it goes on.
Wow.
Right? Impact is normally defined or confined to a moment
Mm-hmm.
in time. Influence is legacy.
So it's the
Right?
difference between a one-hit wonder and a band or a solo artist that has years and years and years of
Right.
of great music.
Right. Right. And I think a lot of times artists that become well known,
Mm-hmm.
they may have big impact,
Mm.
like every time they drop a project, right?
Sure.
But is their life carrying cultural influence? Sometimes it is,
Yeah.
and that's
Sure.
not always a good thing, right?
Mhm.
But you can't have impact and not be impacted.
Wow.
You can't have influence and not be influenced, right? because everything has an equal and opposite reaction.
Right.
So, what is going to influence my life, my family's life, if I become well known? All of a sudden, they are well known. They didn't ask for that. Is that part of the cost that I'm willing to pay? Right.
So
These
good.
are all the things that go
All that
into
you're thinking of, yeah,
is that worth influence?
Mhm.
Right. Yes, I have all these gifts and talents. Is this how I'm supposed to use them?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
is this a cost that my family is supposed to pay with me?
Right.
Because they will have to pay.
Yeah.
And people in your life will pay with you, whether you think they will or not,
Right.
one way or another, based on the time you're away on tour,
That's right.
or the people that you're hanging out with,
Mm.
or the way things look
Yeah.
to people on social media.
Sure.
Like, there's so many costs to count,
Mm-hmm.
right? Just the time and effort that it takes to put into a project, constantly reinventing the wheel for yourself to make sure that you are growing as an artist, as a creative. And if you're willing to do all of those things knowing the cost, it's probably worth it. I think for me, what I've been trying to determine is, do I have something to say outside of a collective? Do I have something worth saying through music?
Yeah.
As a solo artist?
Yeah.
When my whole life I've tried to make it not about me.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes you grow in influence so that others can be impacted by what's been put inside of you. And that's actually your calling.
Yeah.
Right? Like, your
That's
calling is that thing, but there's so many ways to go about a calling.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't think a calling is just something you do. So, I think that there are vehicles for a calling, and artistry is one of them.
Sure.
So, that's been my question that I've been wrestling with,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Is that one of my vehicles put in
Mhm.
front of me for the purpose of living out this calling?
But what you're saying here is that just being an artist isn't necessarily the pinnacle for you. You said you spent most of your life trying to, like, not just shun the spotlight, but give more of a context for more people to be involved with it.
Right.
And what I hear you saying here is that feels good to you. And why do something that is against that for the sake of
Right.
being famous?
Right. Well, and I think that that's the question, right? Is, am I doing it for fame,
Yeah.
or am I doing it for another reason?
So good.
And if fame is the goal, it's shallow,
Just like money.
just like money. Well, they kind of go hand in hand,
Don't
right?
they though?
Like, I think that influence and fame can be two different things,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But in that process, the question that I'm currently asking myself that I don't have an answer for is, sometimes your influence or your impact or your calling requires journeys where
Mm.
you're not only part of a collective. There's times where you're meant to stand out
Mm.
for a reason,
Sure.
right? And so the question then is this that time in my life? Or
Right.
is that will that ever be a time in my life where that's supposed to be the case, right?
Yeah.
Because for me, I don't want to do something just because I don't want to do art or music just because it brings me some sort of sense of importance,
Yeah.
right? Like, I want it to help people.
Yeah.
Right? And I want it to affect change in people's hearts and lives and minds. And sometimes that's done better in a collective group, but sometimes one person affects one person.
So you're saying if the it's also then combines with opportunity
Right.
to
What
to-
doors are open?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What doors are open
Right.
before you? And I think that is a killer point here to just pause real
Right.
quick and say, what I'm hearing from Robbie here is that he's really self-aware that if since his trajectory of an artist has been combined with other people, that's beautiful.
There's momentum there.
There's momentum there,
Right.
and you need to stay within that flow to really carry out something that's going to be beneficial for his heart and his family in the future.
And I think part of the question that I'm having is, am I authentically fully releasing everything that's been put inside of me if
Yeah.
I'm constantly collaborating with other people's sound
Mm-hmm.
and other people's expression
Sure.
and not releasing something that I've had more of a hand on,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah,
And I believe there's room for both.
I think so.
Um,
I agree.
But I think to your point, where's my opportunity right now? It's
Mhm.
definitely been more in the collaborative space
Yes.
than, and what that looks like practically is I don't have a savings account full of money to pay a producer to explore my sonic landscape and figure out like what is my sound since I haven't put out an album before, right? And what am I going to say
Mhm.
that's just my message to the world,
That's so
right?
That's so good.
And so I don't have the time or the money right now to do that alone by itself.
Dude, that is so real. And so if you're watching this and you're going, boy, I feel you. I don't have the time or the money. Sometimes those parameters are exactly where you need to be influential where you're at and in what you're doing, but also to think outside of the box to how can I say this in a way that will help you? Because that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to help you think, okay, so what is my next step?
I think, yes, to your very point, like, okay, in this coaching scenario, if time and money
Mhm.
are my barriers,
Right.
then what am I going to do about that?
Yes.
Right? Like, because you can make time for anything,
Right.
but it goes back to my why,
Mhm.
right? Like,
Yep.
it is now the time to make time
Yeah.
when I haven't had it before, which means something else needs to be sacrificed. That's
Mhm.
counting the cost.
Yep.
And if money is the issue, there are ways to work with people
That's exactly
when you
right.
don't have money. It may limit what your resources are or who you can work with,
That's right.
which I think has probably been more my hang up. A lot of my personal connections are high level professional
Yeah.
producers
Right.
that for them to work with me, I can't just go to them and say, let's just split the master. Right? Like I'm
Mhm.
going to need to fork over some
That's right.
cash.
Mm-hmm.
And they deserve that.
Yeah,
Right?
right.
Because a man is worth his wages.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that that's been part of it, but I do sometimes feel like it's an excuse
Mm-hmm.
that I can hide behind.
And that would be an internal thing.
Right.
That's an internal thing. So in coaching, what I would do, I would say, well, tell me more about what's you feel like could be holding you back from doing the next step. And so we would then dive into some of those internal things that could be literally hamstringing him to actually do what he feels like could be the next thing for him to do. But this is all discovery.
Right.
There's no concrete here. It's
Right.
discovery so that Robbie walks away with a sense of, hey, as I process through this, I think I know what I'm going to do next. And I would say, great, let's write that down.
Right. Right.
Let's get this down because we're going to be 50 to 70% more apt to do something and remember something if we write it down and create what's called a SMART goal around that. What's specific, measurable, attainable, time sensitive, and relevant. Like relevant and then time sensitive.
And relevance is pointing back to your why.
Exactly.
Right.
It's relevant to you and where you're at right now in your life. And then you go, okay, so I really feel like this is where I'm supposed to go. And here are some things I'm going to do practically with steps to do the next thing.
Right. So one of my things in my SMART goals that I would write down might be I need to have a conversation or conversations that I'm scared to have with some of my producer friends.
Yeah.
Right? Like, would you ever consider this?
You have no idea what they're going to say.
I don't know. I'm assuming.
That's right.
I'm assuming.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is an internal struggle that needs to just be voiced and just go down that pathway.
I don't want to devalue their work.
That's right.
But if I'm never willing to have a conversation, then how willing am I really to count the cost of going through that barrier to get to the other side to fulfill the calling that's on my life?
It may just be one song right now.
Right. Right.
And they're just like,
a single.
hey,
Yeah.
dude, like, oh, well, I love you. Let's just do it. Let's
Right.
just go ahead and do that. We'll split the master with you. And you're like, awesome.
Right.
What has happened? The crack in the door has opened.
Right.
And now you're able to explore that, but you're still not going after the things that would be bad for your family,
Right.
right? You're still navigating that well, but you're going down that pathway. So I
Yeah.
guess the real thing here, we probably need to start wrapping up here, is that in coaching, it's all about you as the artist.
Right.
Like truly, where are you at? What are the things that are either holding you back from what you feel like is supposed to be your thing? Or what really is your thing, what really is your why, if we need to go down that a little bit deeper, so that you can create some goals wrapped around where you're going to go next. And we can then hold you accountable and
Right.
just say, hey, I hear what you're saying. I'm with you on it.
Yeah.
Like, and this is what you said. And then the next time we meet, so how did things go?
Right. The accountability part
Yeah.
is really important. And that
That's
even
so good.
makes that the likelihood of what you wrote down goes up to like 90%.
Because you're actually,
Because there's accountability to the
Yeah.
goal you've written down.
That's right. And if things change, things change. What changed about it? What was the direction? Maybe you did ask two producers and one said, yeah, let's go for it. Awesome.
Yeah.
What does that mean next?
I think to kind of help wrap this up too, the reason we're talking about coaching is because we've seen that it makes success definable
Yeah.
and attainable,
That's right.
right?
Yep.
And so for me, I think success is when you can clearly define this is why I'm doing what I'm doing,
Yeah.
and I'm actually doing it.
Yes.
Like I'm doing the process
Yeah.
that leads me to the place I say I want to be, right?
Right.
There's so many companies and music individuals out there that are telling you we can
Oh,
make you
man.
successful and it equals money or it equals streams. And we want that for you.
Yeah, man.
We actually do.
Yeah.
But that's not actual success. Success
Right.
is I did what I set out to do.
Yeah.
And what I set out to do was truly an authentic expression of who I am.
Yeah.
It showed up in my music and I knew how to talk about it to the world.
We're such in a society that it's kind of destination oriented, but
Right.
when actuality, it's truly about the journey that you're on. So if you can keep that in your heart as like, I'm just journeying here, trying to figure out the next step. It's not about having to get somewhere. It's about knowing which way to go.
Yeah.
And if you're like us, you get emails all the time about, oh, join us and we want to help you do this thing. And
Right.
we're a marketing company that does this, this, and this, and we've helped all these people. And you're like, are they the right people to talk to?
Right.
Do they really do? And that's the third part about what we do at the Indie Friend is we help and have been curating help for you
Right.
in resources that will align you with the right people at the right time when you're in coaching.
Right. Yeah. So I would just say learn how to define
Yes.
success for yourself.
That's good.
Make sure you're writing that down.
Yes.
Ask yourself the questions of am I doing what it takes
Mm-hmm.
to truly be authentic
Yeah.
in my artistic expression? And doing what it takes isn't just becoming a better artist, because one of the things we were talking about earlier before we started hitting record was that as an independent artist, you're not just an artist. You are the CEO of your own
You are.
music business.
Yeah.
You have to understand how royalties work. You have to understand how contracts work. You have
Mhm.
to understand all of these things, right? So part of your goal to success may be, I need to learn about this stuff
Right.
and truly understand it and become a professional
Mhm.
in my own business,
Right.
right? So you did not escape administration and business by
Yeah.
becoming a creative. You actually just signed yourself up for it. So
Right.
I would just say
It's good.
be able to define what success is for you, right? Write it down and be accountable to it. And if you need help with that, that's what we do with
what
our
we do.
coaching program. So make sure you're
So
checking
good.
that out, theindiefriend.com. We have a section that is specific to one-on-one coaching.
Right.
and you can click on that for information. I think we have a video about it, but even if we don't, we've got lots of information about
Lots
what
of it, yep.
what the process is and how we walk you through it.
And there's actually a form there to get on the wait list for coaching, so we can have a conversation with you, give you some questions to think about first, so that we can see where you're at in your journey to see if it would be a good fit for us, and for you, obviously. But we want to make sure that we're working with people that are really wanting to move forward.
You need to be ready.
And ready for change.
Not
because
everyone
there's
is.
probably going to be some change that needs to happen for you as you start to dig into some of this stuff. So yeah, we would love to connect with you through the website, through theindiefriend.com on the coaching section. And the last thing I'll say here is that we're talking about being the CEO of your music business. When you're a CEO, you have to think entrepreneurially.
Good point.
And because normally we're thinking time for money. I get a job and I'll go to that job and I get paid for the time that I'm there. I do the work and I get paid. An entrepreneur doesn't necessarily do that. They put a lot of time into things that they don't necessarily get a paycheck for right away. They have to do the work to see something on the other end.
That's a great point. Really quickly, I just want to say that no one goes, well, maybe people do and they have an inflated idea, but you don't go to the gym thinking I want to get ripped and think it's going to happen in a week.
That day or that
Right?
week or that
month or even that year.
It's
Like,
going to hurt for a little while.
the people that are admired for what they've put their body through to get to where it's
That's
at.
it.
It's taken years and years and years. And it's
That's so
a
good.
lot of these companies out there, they're selling you something that's like, hey, we're going to get you there quick.
Right.
But truthfully, going viral is
Oh,
not a strategy.
It
It's
is
not a
not
strategy. If it happens, amazing. If you win the lottery, amazing. But most likely, if you haven't built up the character and the talent and the know-how to support yourself in your music business, just like the lottery winners, your money's gone in 5 years and you're back where you started or worse.
Right.
So it's so important to build a foundation for yourself.
Yep.
And that's what we really want to help you do.
That's
So
exactly
thank
right.
you for listening today.
Yeah,
We're
thanks.
so glad that you've joined, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Looking for a breakthrough,